So I recently made a little bit of an error to my first Weakness Cup team lineup, the Kanto Raiders lineup. It is in fact a doubles format, not a singles format which I originally imagined. With that in mind though, I bring you the second lineup for the Weakness Cup, a lineup I like to call the Johto Tricksters lineup. So I'm going to start this off by saying that the Johto Tricksters lineup is not for the Pokemon trainer that wants to go heads-on into a brawl with the opponent. No. That is not how the Johto Tricksters want to play. No, what they want to do is set up the field so that they have the advantage. They want to take their time, make sure everything is properly placed, and they want to turn the opponent's moves against them, as well as their weather effects. That is what the Johto Tricksters want to do. So we're going to be starting off this lineup by starting off with probably one of the strongest Pokemon for this lineup, Big Daddy Tyranitar. That's right, Tyranitar is in the battle for these kinds of tournaments. This cup is pretty much going to be Tyranitar's playground. For those of you who love to use this Pokemon, well, this is your best chance to use it. And the reason why is because, guess what? Tyranitar has not 1, not 2, definitely not 3, not even 5, and definitely not 6. No. Tyranitar has 7 weaknesses total. So if ever there was a Pokemon that's going to have a really hard time with Pokemon it's weak to and move it's weak to, it's going to be Tyranitar. However, Tyranitar has some very good moves and abilities. First of all, it has access to the Sandstream ability, which will set up a Sandstream, and for those of you who don't know their weather effects, Sandstream or the Sandstorm will actually increase the special defense of Rock-type Pokemon by 50%. So think of it as a free Assault Vest for Tyranitar. However, if it has access to the Unnerve ability, or if it uses the Unnerve ability, then it will prevent any of the opponent's Pokemon from using their berries. And for those of you who don't know, the rule says you can only use Weakness Policy and berries for this competition. So Unnerve can actually really slow down and really destroy opponents if they rely solely on the berries. So as far as moves go and abilities go, you can pretty much choose whatever ability you want, but for moves, Tyranitar's specialty is going to be found in its physical attacks. As you can see, it has access to a huge variety of physical attacking moves. It also has access to some very scary egg moves, such as the Dragon Dance, which will improve its speed and physical attack as well. It has access to Outbreed, it has access to Pursuit if you want to, really punish those trainers that want to switch their Pokemon out. It has access to other moves such as, I believe it has Curse there. Yep, it has Curse as well. It has access to Iron Fang, Thunder Fang, Fire Fang. It has access to Rock Slide, probably one of its biggest abilities, or if you want to go for Stone Edge, it also has that. It has access to Earthquake, Payback as well, Crunch. It has access to a huge variety of moves. I think only Garchomp can, outspeed or outuse these or beat its sheer move pool diversity. That's what I'm trying to go for. But in any case, that's only the first Pokemon. The next Pokemon we're going to be looking at is the starter Pokemon for Johto, Meganium. So Meganium has a really strong set of defenses. It's a really defensive Pokemon, but what Meganium offers this team is not in terms of its attacking potential, nor its speed, or its even its fairly decent health pool and defensive coverage. It has access to the 2 moves that this team will probably rely on most. It has access to Reflect and Light Screen. That's right. It has access to the 2 barrier moves that our team will probably make use of in this tournament, or this online competition. The barriers will increase our defensive power for our Pokemon that are trying to set up. And believe me, there will be a lot of Pokemon that will be using the time to set up, so you might as well get the barriers up if you can, and give yourself that extra room to survive the time you're setting up so that you can counterattack. Speaking of setting up, a Pokemon we're going to be using to deal with our opponents who are trying to set up is Xatu. So Xatu doesn't get a lot of coverage, it doesn't get a lot of usage outside of maybe the few niche teams, but Xatu has access to the magic bounce ability. If people have the magic bounce ability on their team, then they have access to probably one of the strongest moves for the singles competition. Tell me, have you ever heard of the move Spikes? How about Toxic Spikes? How about those floating rocks? I forget what they're called. But if you've ever encountered someone who wants to set up these entry hazard moves, well, Magic Bounce is gonna turn those moves and put them on the opponent's side of the field. So that is what Xatu is gonna be doing. Xatu wants to just get in there, wants to reflect any status moves used against us and put them onto the opponent. So if they want to set up Toxic, go ahead. Xatu will turn that around. It also has access to the Synchronize. If they want to Toxic you, well guess what? They're going to be Toxic as well. Speaking of moves, it has access to some interesting moves as well. It has access to the Psychic Attack, Future Sight if you want to go for something like that. Nightshade, Tailwind. Tailwind is probably also something we could use. It has access to some other moves as well. Basically, it also has access to the Ally Switch. I believe I talked about this during my how to use Ally Switch. Although you won't be able to use Ally Switch in this competition because it has only singles. But it also has access to the move Haze, which is probably going to be even more important, especially against those trainers that want to set up moves such as Swords Dance or so on. So that's going to be our Magic Bouncer user. That's what the trickiest Pokemon on the team is. So the next Pokemon we're going to be looking at is probably the king of all tricky Pokemon. It's going to be Sudowoodo. That's right, it's not a tree, it's not a grass type Pokemon, it's a rock type Pokemon. And what is Sudowoodo going to be doing on this competition? Well, it's got two tasks on this team. First of all, we're going to be using this as our sturdy weakness policy Pokemon. That's right, we're going to be using a weakness policy Pokemon. And with the sturdy weakness, if you remember my Golem from the Kanto Raiders lineup, then a sturdy Pokemon with weakness policy is probably going to be one of our best moves. So what does Sudowoodo want to do? Well, if we give it the weakness policy and we give it if we give it sturdy, then we can run a move like Flail for that one-hit KO combo that we all like. We can also use a Sucker Punch, on the turn that it follows up, so that if they want to, attack us and finish us off, well, we can do some last bit of damage to them. We can also use Sudowoodo if we don't want to run the weakness policy. We can also use it to set up Sunny Day for one of our other Pokemon on the field that we're going to be talking about later. But basically, you have quite a few moves we can use with Sudowoodo. You can also set up Stealth Rocks of your own. That's the move I was trying to remember, Stealth Rocks. So that's what we can do. We can set up Sunny Day if we want to for one of our Pokemon. We can also use it to set up Sandstorm, I believe, perhaps. I don't remember. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But in any case, that's going to be the fourth Pokemon we're looking at. And speaking of tricky Pokemon, guess what? It's Slowking. Slowking for Johto. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. So what Slowking wants to do is pretty much set up for its Trick Room. It wants to get in there, absorb whatever attack comes its way, and it wants to set up the Trick Room so it can use its stronger defensive or stronger move pool, stronger special attack, and basically be as dangerous to our opponent as physically possible. It has access to some interesting moves as well. It has access to the Psyshock. It has access to Power Gem as well. That's incredible. I didn't even realize it had Power Gem. It also has access to Psych Up. So if our opponent wants to set up, well, let them set up. Guess what? We're going to be using Psych Up the following turn to copy their stats. So that's what it wants to do. It also has access to the Calm Mind. It has access to some various weather moves. It even has access to Flamethrower, Fire Blast. What more do you want out of this Slowking? So it has access to some very powerful moves. It has access to a lot of TM moves. And the last Pokemon we're going to be looking at is going to be Bellossom. So Bellossom is, again, one of those niche Pokemons you wouldn't normally expect, you wouldn't normally look to as a really strong Pokemon. But with the limited list of Pokemon we have available to us, Bellossom has access to some moves which we could really make use of our advantage. So you were talking about earlier about how we could use two of our Pokemon to set up like Sunny Day and so on, and this is why, because Bellossom has access to the Chlorophyll ability. So for those of you who don't know, Chlorophyll doubles the speed stat of the Pokemon that has the ability when it's sitting around in a sunny day. So if it has the sun in its favor, its speed will double, turning that base speed of 50 to its base speed of 100. And speaking of moves, it has access to some interesting abilities. It has access to the Quiver Dance, it has access to the Petal Dance, it has access to Mega Drain as well. It also has access to some other moves which we could make use of, such as Synthesis, Ingrain if we want to go that route, Grassy Knot if we're facing, really heavy Pokemon, Dazzling Gleam because they're going to be running, Dragon types and Dark type Pokemon with all the Dark and Dragon types on the field. And it has access to even Venoshock if you can believe it. It has access to Toxic, Sludge Bomb. What more do you want out of this Pokemon? So that's gonna be the group of Pokemon. That's gonna be the Johto Tricksters. We're gonna be once again going through them. We're looking at Tyranitar, Big Daddy Tyranitar. We're looking at Meganium, the Johto starter for the grass starters. Xatu going to be for our Magic Bounce. And we're going to have Sudowoodo as well, rocking in the team, speaking of that rock type. And then we're going to have Slowking for Trick Room and establishing Psych Up shenanigans. And finally, Bellossom for even more silly shenanigans. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you take these teams into account or these team members when you're making your own team for the Weakness Cup. And I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.